April 15, 1944, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, London, a windowless room deep underground. Dwight D. Eisenhower sits at a table. Around him, a dozen officers. Maps cover every wall, but these aren't battle maps. These are deception maps. Maps of an invasion that will never happen. Maps designed to fool Hitler, to make him believe the Allies will land at Calais, not Normandy. The real invasion is 8 weeks away. June 6, D-Day, Normandy beaches. The largest amphibious assault in history. 50,000 men in the first wave, hundreds of thousands following. If the Germans know where they're coming, it's a massacre. If the Germans concentrate their forces at Normandy, the invasion fails. Thousands die. The war drags on, maybe forever. So Eisenhower needs a ghost, an entire army that doesn't exist, phantom divisions, fake headquarters, inflatable tanks, dummy landing craft, radio chatter about operations that will never happen, all designed to convince Hitler that the main invasion will hit Calais, 150 miles from the real target. Gentlemen, Eisenhower says. His voice is calm, measured, but his eyes show the weight. Operation Fortitude. The success of D-Day depends on this deception. If Hitler keeps his panzers at Calais, we have a chance. If he moves them to Normandy, we lose. It's that simple. A British intelligence officer speaks. Colonel Bevan, thin, precise. Sir, we've created the first U.S. Army group, FUSAG. On paper, it's the largest Allied force in Britain, 12 divisions. Commanded by General Patton, positioned in southeast England, directly across from Calais. And in reality, Eisenhower asks, in reality, sir, it doesn't exist. Patton commands nothing. The divisions are phantom, the equipment is rubber and wood, but the Germans believe it's real. Their reconnaissance flights see the tanks. Their radio intercepts hear the chatter. Their spies report massive troop concentrations. Everything points to Calais. And if they discover the truth, Eisenhower's question hangs in the air, heavy, dangerous. Then D-Day fails before it begins. Eisenhower stands, walks to the map, stares at the French coast. 2 possible landing sites, Calais and Normandy. Calais is closer, more obvious, better ports, shorter supply lines. Hitler expects Calais. His generals expect Calais. Logic demands Calais, but Eisenhower chose Normandy because it's unexpected. Because the beaches are less defended, because surprise is worth more than logistics, but only if Hitler believes the deception, only if he keeps his forces at Calais, only if the ghost army works. How long can we maintain the illusion? Eisenhower asks. Until D-Day, sir. And hopefully several weeks after. We need Hitler to believe that Normandy is a feint, that the real invasion is still coming at Calais. If he believes that, he won't move his reserves, won't reinforce Normandy. Gives us time to establish the beachhead. And if he doesn't believe it, silence. No one wants to answer, because everyone knows the answer. If Hitler doesn't believe it, he moves his panzers to Normandy. The beaches become killing zones. The invasion stalls. Thousands die in the surf. The war is lost. Eisenhower returns to his chair, sits, the weight visible on his shoulders. Gentlemen, I'm betting the entire invasion on inflatable tanks and fake radio messages. I'm betting 50,000 lives on a lie. If this works, we win the war. If it fails, those men die. And it's my decision, my responsibility, my weight to carry. He looks around the room, at the officers, at the maps, at the deception that must work. Make it convincing. Make it perfect. Make Hitler believe, because if he doesn't, we lose everything. Southeast England, Dover, across from Calais. A field that should be empty, but from the air, it's full. Tanks, hundreds of them, lined up in perfect rows. Camouflage netting, maintenance crews. Activity. A massive armored division, ready to invade. But on the ground, the truth is different. The tanks are rubber, inflatable, held up by air pumps, painted to look real from above, but up close, they're toys. Fake, harmless. The maintenance crews are actors, a handful of men moving between the fake tanks, creating the illusion of activity. The camouflage netting is real, but it's hiding nothing, just air and canvas and lies. A young lieutenant walks through the field, Lieutenant Harris, 24 years old, art student before the war. Now he's part of the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, the Ghost Army. His job is to create illusions, to make the fake look real, to fool German reconnaissance. "Sir, we've got a problem," a sergeant says. Sergeant Dawson. Older, practical. "The wind is picking up. 2 of the tanks deflated. We need to re-inflate them before the next reconnaissance flight." Harris checks his watch. "When's the next scheduled overflight?" "German reconnaissance comes over every morning at 6 o'clock. We have 2 hours. Get them re-inflated, and add more scorch marks to the treads. Make them look used. Make them look real." The sergeant nods, runs off. Harris stands alone in the field of fake tanks, thinking about the absurdity. The entire invasion depends on rubber and air, on making Hitler believe in an army that doesn't exist. If a German spy gets close enough to touch these tanks, the deception collapses. If the wind blows too hard and they deflate, the deception collapses. If anything goes wrong, thousands of men die. He thinks about the real soldiers, waiting in southern England, preparing for Normandy. They don't know about the ghost army, don't know that their survival depends on inflatable tanks and fake radio chatter. They just know they're going to storm a beach, and many of them won't come back. Harris's job is to make sure as many as possible do come back. By lying, by deceiving, by creating ghosts. A truck parked in a field. Inside, radio equipment, transmitters, receivers, encryption machines, and 3 operators. Sending messages, fake messages, about operations that will never happen. "This is FUSAG headquarters to 5th Armored Division. Confirm receipt of supply requisition for June 1st Calais operation. Over." The message goes out. Encrypted, but not too encrypted, just enough to look real, but easy enough for German intelligence to break, because they want the Germans to intercept it, want them to decode it, want them to believe. Another operator sends a different message. 83rd Infantry Division reports training exercises complete, ready for embarkation, awaiting orders for Calais assault. Over. More fake messages, more fake divisions, more fake operations, all pointing to Calais, all designed to convince Hitler. The radio operators work in shifts, 24 hours a day, creating a constant stream of chatter, making FUSAG seem real, making the Phantom Army seem active, preparing, training, ready to invade. A captain enters the truck. Captain Morrison signals intelligence. "Gentlemen, we just intercepted German communications. They're discussing FUSAG. They believe it's real. They estimate 12 divisions. They think Patton is commanding. They expect Calais." The operators smile. "It's working. The deception is working. Keep it up," Morrison says. "But vary the patterns. Make it natural. Real armies don't have perfect radio discipline. They make mistakes. They chat. They complain. Make it human." The operators nod, return to their work, sending ghosts through the airwaves, creating an army out of electromagnetic waves and lies. May 20th, 1944. 2 weeks before D-Day, Eisenhower receives a report. German intelligence summary, intercepted and decoded by Allied cryptographers. The report lists Allied forces in Britain. Estimates, locations, commanders. FUSAG is listed. 12 divisions. Southeast England. Commander, General George S. Patton. Objective Calais invasion. Expected date, late June or early July. Eisenhower reads the report, reads it again. Then he smiles. A rare smile, tired, relieved. "They believe it," he says to his chief of staff, General Bedell Smith. "Hitler believes the ghost army is real. For now, sir," Smith says, "always cautious, always realistic. But what happens after D-Day, when we land at Normandy? Won't Hitler realize Calais was a deception? That's why we keep the deception going." Eisenhower says, "After we land at Normandy, we send more fake messages. FUSAG is still preparing. The Normandy landing is a diversion. The real invasion is still coming at Calais. We need Hitler to believe that for as long as possible, days, weeks, every day he keeps his panzers at Calais, is another day we can build up the Normandy beachhead, and if he doesn't believe it, if he moves his reserves to Normandy immediately." Eisenhower's smile fades. "Then we fight the hardest battle of the war, and we hope we have enough men to win it." He stands, walks to the window, looks out at London, at the city that's endured years of bombing, years of war, years of sacrifice. "Bedell, I'm sending 50,000 men onto those beaches. Most of them are kids, 19, 20, 21. They've never seen combat, never killed anyone, never watched their friends die, and I'm ordering them to run into machine gun fire, to storm fortified positions, to die so that others can live. He turns back. His face shows the weight, the crushing weight of command. The Ghost Army gives them a chance, a better chance. If Hitler keeps even one panzer division at Calais, that's thousands of lives saved. That's the gamble. That's the math. That's the weight I carry. June 6, 1944, 6:30 hours. Normandy beaches, Omaha, Utah. Gold, Juno, Sword. 50,000 men hit the beaches in the first wave. The Germans are waiting. Machine guns, artillery, mortars. The water turns red. Men fall, scream, die. But they keep coming, wave after wave, pushing forward, dying, advancing, dying, winning. The beachhead is established, barely, at terrible cost, but established. And in Calais, Hitler waits. His panzer divisions sit, waiting for the real invasion, the invasion that will never come, because they believe in ghosts, because they believe in Fusag, because Eisenhower's deception worked. For 3 weeks after D-Day, Hitler keeps his reserves at Calais. 3 weeks of waiting for Patton's Phantom Army. 3 weeks that give the Allies time to reinforce Normandy, to build up supplies, to push inland. 3 weeks that change the war. By the time Hitler realizes the truth, it's too late. The Allies are too strong, too established, too numerous. Normandy is secure. The deception worked. The Ghost Army saved D-Day. Eisenhower stands on Omaha Beach 2 days after the invasion. Bodies are still being collected. Blood still stains the sand. Wreckage still litters the shore. He walks slowly, looking at the faces. The young faces, the dead faces. Boys who will never go home. A chaplain approaches. "Sir," the casualty reports. First wave, 4,000 killed or wounded. Total D-Day casualties, 10,000 plus. Eisenhower nods, doesn't speak, just nods. 10,000, 10,000 lives, 10,000 features erased. But it could have been worse. If Hitler had moved his panzers to Normandy, if the Ghost Army hadn't worked, it could have been 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. The entire invasion could have failed. "Sir," the chaplain continues, "the men fought bravely. I know," Eisenhower interrupts. Quiet, tired. "I know they fought bravely. I sent them here. I ordered them to storm this beach. I knew thousands would die, and I gave the order anyway." He looks at the chaplain. "How do you live with that? How do you sleep, knowing your decision killed 10,000 men?" The chaplain has no answer. Because there is no answer, Eisenhower walks away, alone, carrying the weight, the unbearable weight of command. The Ghost Army remains classified for decades. The 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, the inflatable tanks, the fake radio messages, the deception that saved D-Day. Classified, secret, unknown. The men who served in it are sworn to secrecy. They go home after the war, return to normal lives. Art students, radio operators, engineers. They never tell their families, never tell their friends, never reveal what they did, that they won the war with rubber tanks and lies. Lieutenant Harris returns to art school, becomes a painter. Abstract expressionism. Critics praise his work. Bold use of illusion and reality. He never tells them, never explains, that he learned about illusion during the war, creating ghosts, fooling Hitler, saving lives. Sergeant Dawson becomes an engineer, builds bridges, real bridges, solid, permanent, the opposite of inflatable tanks. He never tells anyone, never explains, that he once built an entire army out of air and canvas. Captain Morrison works in telecommunications, helps build the early computer networks, information flowing through wires, like the fake radio messages he sent, creating reality out of electromagnetic waves. He never tells anyone, never explains, that he once created an army out of radio signals and lies. They carry the secret, for decades. Until 1996, when the Ghost Army is finally declassified, finally revealed, finally honored. By then, most of them are old or dead, but the truth comes out. The Ghost Army was real, the deception worked. D-Day succeeded because of inflatable tanks and fake radio messages, because Eisenhower bet the invasion on a lie, and won. Years after the war, a young officer asks Eisenhower, "Sir, Operation Fortitude, the Ghost Army. How did you know it would work? How did you know Hitler would believe it?" Eisenhower looks at him. Old now, tired, the weight still visible. "I didn't know. I hoped. I gambled. I bet 50,000 lives that Hitler would believe in inflatable tanks, that he would trust his intelligence, that he would keep his panzers at Calais. But I didn't know. I couldn't know. I just had to decide. But it worked, sir. D-Day succeeded. We won the war. Yes, Eisenhower says. It worked. But 10,000 men still died on those beaches. 10,000 men I sent there. 10,000 lives I gambled. We call it a success. We call it a great victory. But I remember the faces, the bodies, the cost. He stands, walks to the window. Command is about making impossible decisions, betting lives on deceptions, sending men to die so that others can live. You do the math, you make the choice, you give the order, and then you carry the weight. Forever. He turns back. They'll remember D-Day. They'll remember the invasion, the victory, the liberation of Europe. But I'll remember the 10,000. The ones who died, the ones I sent there. That's the part they don't put in the history books. That's the weight commanders carry. June 6, 1944. The Ghost Army did its job. Hitler believed. The panzers stayed at Calais. Normandy succeeded. The war was won, but the victory was built on deception, on inflatable tanks, on fake radio messages, on lies that saved lives. Eisenhower made the gamble, created an army that didn't exist, fooled Hitler, saved D-Day. History remembers him as a great commander, a strategic genius, the man who won the war. But Eisenhower remembered something else: the weight, the 10,000 who died, the impossible choice, the gamble that worked, but cost everything. In the end, every great victory is built on deception. Every success is purchased with lives. Every commander carries the weight of the men who died following orders. Eisenhower created ghosts to save the living. But the ghosts that haunted him weren't inflatable tanks. They were the faces of the men who died on Omaha Beach. The men he sent there. The men he couldn't save. That's the truth, beneath the legend. That's the weight of command. That's the price of victory. The Ghost Army fooled Hitler, but it couldn't fool the man who created it. Eisenhower knew the truth, knew the cost, knew the weight, and he carried it. For the rest of his life, some armies are made of steel, some armies are made of rubber and air, but every army is paid for in blood, and the commander who sends them forward carries every drop.